hello the world and hello Skwirlly Squad. We are back after a couple weeks away, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about some exciting things happening here in 2024, some changes coming, some of which involve even more AI for the people. That's right, artificial intelligence, not just ChatGPT, coming for the masses in bigger ways. Well, you are listening to Stay Skwirlly. I'm your host, Skwirls, of course, and this is the show where we talk about technology and gaming and really whatever nerdy topics that pique our interests. I know we missed an episode last week. Sorry about that, guys, but it is in line with a new podcast release schedule I'm going to be following effective immediately. But before we talk about that, I want to give a shout-out, our regular shout-out, to those subbing at the Skwirliest level, whether that's on Twitch or our Super Skwirly Squad memberships. Shout-out to Bug Eyes, I Heart Squirrels, Blue Phoenix, Red Wing, Countless Ors, Neverend 354, Chubex Gaudius, Jen Evans, and JB Digital Geek. Thank you, guys. You are the squirliest among us, and my family thanks you loads for the support. All right, so housekeeping. A couple changes to the podcast. The first one I alluded to just a second ago. The podcast release schedule is changing. I was talking about this earlier this week, or early this morning, actually, on the Super Skwirly Squad exclusive posts. So you might have seen it there already. But essentially, this podcast is going forward as a bi-weekly release. Bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. This is because of a few different things. One, on the one hand, this gives me more time between episodes to come up with solid content for the next episode. Two, on the other hand, this also gives me more time to focus on other digital... Oh, excuse me. My goodness, you guys. Sorry, I'm having some cherry Coke right now. More time to focus on other digital content for you guys. Things like the YouTube videos, the streams, the reels, the shorts, songs, etc., etc. So yeah, going forward after today's episode, the next one will be in 2 weeks from today. Today being Friday, March 15th. Another announcement per the recommendation of you guys, plus in conjunction with podcasts only every 2 weeks now. From now on, we are not going to have a focus on news. Yeah. I know in the past couple episodes, I have already stated that this is not a news podcast, and I am not a reporter. Well, going forward, we're taking a step further. I will no longer intend to share any news on here unless it's something that really caught my interest or it's like buzzing around the industry or something like that. But even still, I might not even talk about it on the show. You guys specifically reached out to me saying that if I'm not going to cover or report on news regularly, don't even worry about it, right? You've got so many podcasts that you can tune into that give you guys gaming news, give you guys technology news, nerdy news, whatever. So why try to keep up with the news that's going on when that's not the focus of this show anyway, right? And that's a great point, you guys. So the only news we'll talk about on here will be like in this kind of housekeeping segment that we're in right now. And it'll only be stuff that happened to catch my eye and I want to talk about. Otherwise, it's strictly housekeeping stuff, then the feature every week. Sound good? Cool. And that brings us to the Golden Acorn. Before we get into the feature today, Golden Acorn number 64 this week. Well done is better than well said. And that is a Benjamin Franklin quote. Well done is better than well said. Golden Acorn number 64 this week. So with that, well, we've got our feature segment coming up next in just a moment. Is 2024 the year of AI for the masses? Well, I want to talk to you guys about some changes coming this year, not for the podcast, changes like in technology in general. Many of which could directly affect your gaming hardware. So you just listen to some of the changes and you'll see for yourself in a hot second whether or not this is the year for AI. I think you'll get the idea. And we'll talk about more AI stuff like overall here in just a second. But first of all, there's some stuff from Intel that might be worth noting. So I don't know how big you guys are into CPUs. Maybe you build your own PCs, maybe you don't. But Intel has some changes coming this year. That big company that kind of competes with AMD CPUs. Yeah, Intel. So they've got this new CPU coming out this year, which I believe is primarily for laptops, like mobile CPU type of thing. It's their Meteor Lake CPU. The previous one, the previous generation was the Raptor Lake. Raptor Lake being their 13th gen CPU, Raptor Lake. But this is Meteor Lake, their 14th gen, also known as the Intel Core Ultra Gen 1 CPU line. So Intel Core Ultra is like the new line of CPUs that they're calling it, and Meteor Lake is going to be the first gen of those. So they are synonymous, by the way. So if you see something that, like if a laptop's coming out and it's like 14th gen Meteor Lake processor, and then you see something else that's another laptop that says Intel Core Ultra Gen 1 CPU, literally they are exactly the same. They're both Meteor Lake. That's the only thing this year that is that. So they are literally the same thing. They're trying to change the name going forward. So I guess they've got too many generations going, so they want to start from Gen 1 again. I don't know. But if you see anything labeled either or, they are in fact both Meteor Lake. Anyway, it has an integrated GPU. The integrated GPU that goes with Meteor Lake is their Arc GPU. The CPU itself has P cores and E cores for performance and efficiency. So P cores, performance, efficiency, or the E cores. There's now an NPU, neural processing unit, which is supposed to be a lower power island. The thread director, the means in the CPU, or that's designed for assigning threads to different tasks and things. That thread director is now more advanced in this generation of CPU. They basically flipped the framework from performance first to efficiency first. Those are those P cores and E cores that we mentioned a second ago. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of jargon. Let's be honest. A lot of you guys listening may not understand most of it. To be honest, I'm into this stuff. I'm into enterprise IT, in fact. Like, literally, that's what I do for a living. And some of this CPU jargon was a little much for me as well when I was getting it. But I mention all of it to say this. CPUs are processing more and more and more these days. So much so that it's become apparent to Intel that they needed to redesign the CPU to be more efficient than ever. Now, granted, they do this all the time, right? They're constantly making efficiencies to their CPU lines. But in this particular case, there seemed to be a decent amount of changes in a single generational leap here. Especially by the way of power consumption in laptops. You want your laptop to process more but still not kill your battery? That's what Meteor Lake is designed to do. So what does this mean, really? Well, it means that Intel is anticipating even more performance requirements that are CPU heavy or CPU intensive tasks. Like what? Well, that brings us to another major change happening this year, which is really kind of the bucket for the reason for this podcast segment. For the first time in ages, Microsoft is putting a new key on their keyboards. What key is it? The Copilot key. That's right. It's going to go right next to the spacebar, on the right side of the spacebar. Kind of like where the Windows key is currently on the left side. Think about it, like once upon a time, there used to be like a Windows key on the left side and the right side of the spacebar. Now it's kind of just stayed on the left side, and like certain other keys have taken over on the right side, but they're not like necessary keys. Now Microsoft literally is putting a dedicated Copilot button on the right side of the spacebar. Yeah. Kind of crazy. If you're not familiar with Copilot, don't worry. You're not alone. I promise you're not alone. Many of you guys listening to me probably know what Copilot is. Actually, no, I'm not even going to say that because I've talked to so many people, even in this industry, that are still like, I don't even know what the heck Copilot is. So if I can find plenty of people in my industry that are asking that question, then I'm sure there are a number of people that are listening to my voice right now that don't know what Copilot is. Most people don't even realize that Copilot popped up on their taskbar in Windows 11 recently. And if you have noticed, you may just be telling yourself, cool, they changed Cortana's name to Copilot. Okay, not exactly. Not exactly. Copilot is a desktop AI built into Windows 11 that is designed to optimize your workflows. Cortana is basically a glorified search engine that had access to the internet. Copilot would be like Cortana evolved with a megastone. Copilot can help you write emails. It can search your documents and their contents en masse. Use the search to answer specific questions you have. You can cross-reference those questions against your own data on your desktop versus the internet websites it can find. There's really so much that Copilot is projected to be able to do for us. And if you listened a couple episodes ago, I mentioned Chat with RTX for anyone with an RTX 30 series GPU. It's basically that, but this one is built into the OS, so you don't even need additional hardware. It's not gonna be, you know, using a dedicated GPU accelerated experience with its own database backend. But at this point, I don't even know which one's better. I don't know if Copilot or Chat with RTX is better. Copilot is baked into the OS, so the OS is supposed to be optimized for it. Chat with RTX uses your NVIDIA GPU to accelerate its processes. Like, I don't know what's better. I can tell you from an enterprise perspective that NVIDIA is the leader in AI enterprise-wide, so I would think that Chat with RTX would be more efficient, but I honestly don't know at this point. Copilot is still pretty new, right? But so is Chat with RTX from a desktop user perspective. Time will tell, but before we dive into those details, let's take a step back. Let's talk about AI in general for a hot second. If you're one of those folks that are terrified of AI, there are literally two types of people that I've seen that are. Well, okay, I take that back a little bit. There are a few other types, but generally they fall into two buckets. One, you're terrified because you don't know anything about AI. Or two, you're terrified because of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, in other words, Skynet, which still kind of means you don't know anything about AI in its current state. And if you think you know about AI, maybe you don't know about genAI, which is what this actually is that we're talking about today in 2024. I'm here to tell you there's nothing to be scared of. Okay, that you do actually have some things to be scared of with AI, but at least not with the generally available generative AI based on large language models, or LLMs, aka Copilot or Chat with RTX or ChatGPT, etc., OpenAI, etc. Here's the thing. genAI, generative AI, as it stands today, is essentially really just a complicated computer program. Nothing more. It's not actually learning in the normal sense of the word. Ultimately, it's just a bunch of if-thens, or like conditional statements. If this, then that. You ask it a question, then the program goes, if there are words matching their words in other documents, pull them together. Then read documents and search. If this, then that. Cool. Provide answer. That's basically it. I mean, like, it's just really complicated, obviously, to program that properly. Think of this example, right? You ask the question, what is my wife's favorite restaurant? Let's say I asked that to Copilot. What is my wife's favorite restaurant? Cool. The genAI app or Copilot or whatever it is, the programming is going to go, if this is a question, check for the subject. Cool, it is a question. What is the subject? Subject equals wife's favorite restaurant. Great. Now it needs to know 3 things. 1, who is my wife? 2, where are restaurants we've gone to? 3, which ones are the ones we've been to the most? Why does it know to check for those things? Because it's pre-trained from large language models to understand words. That's what large language models are for. Generative AI or genAI uses LLMs, large language models, to understand language, to understand regular speech patterns or regular speech, regular language, regular talking. So you can ask it a question, whether it's verbally or through text. It can look at what you asked and figure out what you're looking for. So obviously it can go and find a definition for the word favorite, find a definition for the word wife, find a definition for the word restaurant, but there's more to it than that, right? You want to know specifically what my wife's favorite restaurant is. So it needs to be able to interpret that. So it knows what to look for strictly to provide an answer for you based on the large language model, but it's still doing a bunch of conditional statements. So now it needs to know to look for those 3 things. So how does it find out who a person is? Well, it's going to check my contacts or my documents or my calendar. Maybe you gave it access to certain sites so it can look there. I don't know. But all of the access that it has is provisioned by you. Then it checks every place on my calendar involving a restaurant and my wife. Then it counts them all up. Then it makes recommendations to me. And then it forgets everything. When the conversation's over, the conversation's over. It's not building on that conversation in the background. It's not looking for other things in the background. It's not trying to figure out all the other places that you've been to on your calendar in the background. If you don't ask it a question, it does nothing. That's it, folks. It's not doing anything without a question first. Generative AI or genAI requires an initial query or question from the user, then goes in search of an answer. That's it. If you're going, well, then how can it carry on a conversation like ChatGPT? Dude, when you ask a follow-up question, it's just weighing if-thens against whether or not your follow-up question looks like it pertains to the previous answer. If yes, then reference previous conversation as part of the search query for the answer. I repeat, genAI is not learning anything in the normal sense of the word. It's just a really sophisticated computer program that provides answers. genAI is not Skynet. It is not gaining access to your home internet in an administrative fashion. It is not scouring your social media profiles, learning about your life. I guess unless you grant it that access, but I don't even think genAI lets you grant that access right now. Whether or not it does, it's just providing an answer. After that question has an answer, it's back to not knowing anything again. It doesn't actually have a brain. It is not self-aware. It is a program designed to provide answers. That is all. Okay. Sorry. Rant over. Promise. Maybe in a future episode, we'll dive more into AI as a whole, like what it's used for outside of the user desktop experience. It's really interesting stuff, honestly, because like AI goes back years and years and years and years and years. Like the I can't remember the dude's name. Oh, dang, I'm drawing a blank. But the father of AI, or the person known as the father of AI, supposedly, according to him. He says, I think it was like back in like the 80s or 70s or something, that he's been creating in a lab the first self-aware computers, but I don't know how true that really is. But I can say that artificial intelligence, as it's known in the industry, has been around for a long time now. And that's why it's now getting into to be front news that NVIDIA is the quote-unquote leader of AI. It's getting to be known that now to the users that don't typically get involved in AI, because AI is finally coming to the users. So that kind of information is finally making it to the foreground because AI has been around for a long time. So we'll dedicate a whole different episode to that because there's some interesting elements to enterprise AI that definitely pertains to the gaming schema, definitely pertains to the gaming industry, and gamers at large, but not for today. Okay, so back to the original question. Is 2024 the year of AI for the people? I think it could be. I think it could be. The Copilot button will be on almost every laptop model for Dell and HP for all their models here in the next week or so. Some models announced have already got them on them. Copilot has already been rolled out to Windows 11 for most people. Microsoft has even announced that they will soon be pushing Windows 11 to Windows 10 users. If you haven't seen that already yet, you will. By August of 2025, I believe it is, Windows 10 will be end of life, which means they expect most users to be on Windows 11 by the end of 2024. Chat with RTX was launched end of last year, which means NVIDIA will be expecting a large number of users to be migrated to the 30 series GPU this year and beyond. It's not coming, folks. It's here. So I want to encourage you guys to try it out. Copilot would be the easiest since it'll be on your desktop sooner or later if it's not already. Ask it basic questions about your calendar, your emails, your documents. I've already been using AI to help me find document contents for files that I named poorly. In fact, I had a conversation with this about this with somebody not too long ago that was talking about how he's a coworker of mine, and he was talking about how he has a folder that has all of this OEM collateral in it. Like every vendor technology you could possibly come across is in this one folder. And I was asking him questions about cybersecurity vendors, and he was like, I mean, I'll see what I can find. I'll do a search for like cybersecurity or something. What if the file he's looking for has to do with cybersecurity, but cybersecurity isn't in the file name? Yeah. So that's what I've been using AI for already, is think about how many times you were like, crap, where was that one file? What did I name it? Now you don't even have to remember what you called the file. Just ask, show me documents that contain X, Y, and Z. Bam. From a gaming perspective, man, I hit gamer burnout all the time, you guys, especially for streaming content. I'm looking forward to going, find me a game I haven't tried that I would be interested in. And then genAI can find games I normally play to figure out what I like, use that same history to find out what I've played, cross-reference it with games that have come out recently that I haven't played. Done. Or what about the day when genAI has access to databases in games themselves or on online gaming databases? Then I could even go, find me a Smite god that I'd like that I haven't tried yet. Great. Or what about something even more basic? You know, it's still based on like your gaming history though. Like how many times has somebody asked you if you've tried a game? I mean, I get that asked all the time. Like, hey, have you tried out blah blah blah? And I'm just thinking, you know, that sounds familiar. Maybe I tried it, maybe I didn't. Or maybe I know I played it, but it was so long ago and I don't know how many updates might have come out. I don't know if it was last year or 5 years ago. Query. When was the last time I played game XYZ? How about when you want to write a support ticket for a game bug or a game glitch and you don't want to come off as someone like an idiot, right? Like you want to come off as smart as possible so they actually look at your support ticket. You want to come off really, really polite, etc. Okay. Write me an email complaining about a glitch in a video game, but make it sound like I know what I'm talking about, like I'm a game dev. Yeah, sure, these are, you know, some relatively simplistic asks for genAI, but super useful in the day-to-day workflows, right? So I ask again, is 2024 the year of AI for the people? Honestly, I don't know if it's 2024 or 2025, but it's here. And 2024 is definitely the dawn of it, for sure. All right. That's all I've got for you guys this episode. I look forward to catching you guys on the next one in 2 weeks. As always, stay squirrely.